So what I normally do with walls, I usually freehand it completely, but I was feeling super inspired and I ended up doing a whole digital version and I loved it so much that I want to translate it to the wall. We have a projector. I don't know if you can, I don't think you can like change the size. We'll see. Either way, let's do it together because I know that this is going to help. I don't know what kind of projector it is. I just know that it projects. I know that there's an HDMI jack on it. So I plugged in an HDMI cable. This one I'm gonna plug into my computer. Okay, not the most flattering angle, but we're plugging it in. We have a power light, okay? So I'm gonna press it. Okay, good sign. Okay. Our team discovery is less than ideal because it does not get bigger, which means that my artwork that I want to show is showing up just real small on the screen, on the wall. So what I can do is, depending on where it is on the wall, I mean, it's gonna kind of act like a grid. So I'll grid it out and then I'll grid out the wall and then I'll see what fits where. You know, listen. It's still gonna be way more helpful than eyeballing it because then I can get every asset that I want in here. Okay, I headed back to Procreate. I opened the artwork that I want. I'm gonna create a new layer. So I'm just grabbing a brush and making a straight line down the guides. Here, I can move that over. I don't care if it's completely straight. Again, it's just like generalized spacing. Okay, now I'm gonna do the same thing to my wall. So this wall is 10 by 10. I ended up measuring out 3.3, if you will, feet approximately. And this is just the professional technique to hold a tape measure down. It's with your bare foot. And marked the walls just on basically where the cross parts were. I have this neat tool. It's a laser, but it also has like levelers on it, so you can see from one spot. It's pretty neat. Okay, you're getting a good view of my really bad prime job, but what I've done here is I've made vertical and horizontal. Please don't judge me. It's gonna be a mural, so you're not gonna even see these. Just don't judge the fact that I don't patch the holes. So it creates kind of a crosshair. So if I'm further back, this is gonna be a square here, square here. Okay, so basically, I can move the projector to be up higher, make this larger, and then fill this whole area with just that part and align just that part. So that's what I'll do. I'll do it better so I'm not holding this, and then we will start. Okay. Overall, definitely not ideal the way that's set up, but I've got it lined up. That's what I wanted, was for this line to be on that line and this line to be on this line so that I know that that's what I want in that square. So as I'm diving into supplies, I'll show you what I'm using. Everything that I have in here is basically whatever sample size they were able to give me because I don't need a whole gallon of paint because I'm using a bunch of colors. All of my paints are from Benjamin Moore, cruelty-free and doesn't test on animals, and that's super, super important to me. So what I do is I go in, I drew what I wanted, and then I grabbed some swatches and I just matched them up. I was looking at the image on my phone and I was just matching up and seeing how these colors played together. Also taking into account the lighting of how the colors will actually work. So from there, I had them create these samples, and sometimes they have them super teeny, sometimes they have them in this size, and sometimes this size. I think they'll always have this one, and it just depends on location if they're gonna do these ones. I didn't even care. I just said make me some samples. So I might need more, we'll see. Brushes, my favorite is like a Liquitex, but for the wall, I will leave my paintbrushes sitting there. I'll get them, I mean, it's just bad. I don't trust myself, so I just grab these ones. I grab like 2 inchers, 1 inchers. I like the angle a lot because it helps me get better line work, so that's what I use. I did use some painter's tape just around the border when I primed, but I'm not going to use it for anything else. And sometimes if I have a larger area, I will use these mini ones, mini rollers, instead of the large ones. We'll see if that comes up. Never know until you get into it. I start on the bigger blocks of color, and I've already found that I like this method a lot because I'm able to set in background without having to either do it first and then try to compete with overlapping layers of paint on top of a background color. This way I can much more easily separate it. The other thing is, what I've done in the past is placed my objects, my items, the things that are in my mural down first, and then take the background color and fill in the empty spaces. And I can kind of lose some detail that way. So I'm kind of working backwards from before doing this method. So I am a fan. I think it just depends on if I feel like doing intuitive painting in the moment or if I am enjoying a digital drawing and then projecting. But in this case, upon reflection, I really did like doing it this way. So I'm not being too precious with this background layer. I still see some areas, like you can see the white little stripes or mark making that I'll be putting in after the fact, but I'm not too worried about that right now. I just want to carve around these items. Okay, so I have my first square done, and you can see that that actually worked out really well. Now I'm gonna go into my next one. So I'm gonna line that up and we will see how well this works. I think it's gonna be just fine. It will take just a minute, but I think it's worth it because I was able to lay these colors really, really easily. So since I already have this to scale, it's actually gonna be pretty easy because all I need to do is shuffle it over. So I'll show you what I mean to line this up. So I'll go over here and just scoot that over and then line it up. And I didn't line it up perfectly, but again, I'm just using it as a guide. But yeah, that works out really well. I'm a pretty messy worker. I have the intention of being really clean, and then I find that I have 4 paintbrushes with different colors that are just sitting there hardening, and I can't help it because I'm in the middle of my creative flow. So don't know about you, but that's what happens to me. It's coming along. If you are one that also does yourself this disservice, the little workaround I find that helped me was to just not let it sit too long before I redip and then work on something in that color. I mean, when you're working in blocks like this, it keeps it pretty easy because you know that you're going to be switching any moment. So I spent some time trying to, like, I brought this color that I had finished with on the block above and brought it down here, and then I left some space open above to when I was going to switch colors. So that's that was my messy method. It's not ideal, but this is, again, we work to the way that our brains work, and when we honor that we don't necessarily have the same exact system as other people, then it is pretty helpful. Okay, so this method is working wonderfully. I've done my 4th grid on the grid here, but it is time for me to call it a day. Okay, I won't lie to you, this was time consuming. I worked on this for 11 hours on day 1, and then the next day I worked on it for 10 hours. I binged 3 Netflix shows, which was a treat. It was more like, kind of felt like listening to audiobooks because I wasn't looking. Final details are always my favorite. This is a quick pan through before I actually got to the final details, so don't look too closely. One of the things that I really like to do is cheat because it's finishing details. So these little accents I can just pull out a paint pen and call it good. Sometimes I'll do this if I have any outlines because it's just so much easier. It takes a lot longer, but if you don't have a lot to do, no big deal. It's also fun to switch up your medium after you've been working with paint for 21 hours. But, you know, look at these fine lines. What a treat. I do love a rough edge though, so I don't do this too much. It's just for these small areas so that they really pop when we zoom out. Isn't it so fun? Okay, as promised, messy process video done. I hope that you enjoyed this. There are some tweaks that I still need to make. There are some finishing touches, but overall, I am happy. Energy drink for my eyes when I walk into this space, and nothing makes me feel more inspired to create in this moment. We'll see if I feel the same way in 6 months. Thanks for watching.